Lincoln Park is not expensive because people are crazy. Lincoln Park is expensive because it solves a very specific problem for a very specific buyer. It gives you Chicago, but it still gives you a neighborhood. It gives you restaurants, parks, the lakefront, schools, walkability, tree-lined streets, gray stone homes, newer construction, and quick access to downtown without feeling like you're living in the middle of the loop. This is why people pay here. And this is why Lincoln Park is one of the most misunderstood real estate markets in all of Chicago. Because most people talk about Lincoln Park like it's one neighborhood with one price point and one buyer. It is not. Lincoln Park is a market inside a market inside a market. The buyer looking at a condo near Clark is not the same buyer looking at a townhome near Sheffield. The buyer near DePaul is not always the same buyer looking for a detached single-family home on a calm residential street. And the buyer looking at a $5 million classic limestone home is not playing the same game as someone trying to get in Lincoln Park with a one-bedroom condo. Same neighborhood, different life, different buyer, different strategy. Lincoln Park is not one market. It is 5 different conversations happening under one name. And that's why today we want to break down what is actually happening near Lincoln Park real estate. Not just the numbers, but the story behind the numbers. Because if you're buying here, the wrong version of Lincoln Park can eat your budget alive. And if you're selling here, lazy marketing will miss the actual buyer your property was meant for. So let's start with the part of Lincoln Park that gets the most attention. Standalone single-family homes, or what I like to call them, architectural masterpieces. Over the last 12 months, from June 2025 to about mid-June 2026 of the making of this video, there were 185 single-family homes sold in Lincoln Park. The average sale price was about $2.625 million. The number alone tells you what kind of market this is. This is not a first-time buyer market. This is, let's see if we can find a deal market. This is a luxury family market inside the city. And there are not many places in Chicago that you can do what Lincoln Park does, because the home buyer here usually wants something very specific. They want the city, but they don't want to feel boxed in. They want the walkability, but they still want a home that gives them privacy. Plus, a lot of them want to be near the lakefront, and they also want a neighborhood block. They want the restaurants, the coffee shops nearby, but they do not want to think about bedrooms, storage, outdoor space, or especially parking. They want to be close to downtown without living downtown. That is Lincoln Park, super buyer. They are not buying square footage. They are buying the rare ability to live in Chicago with a real family home lifestyle. Now, look at how the standalone property sales break down here. Out of the 185 that sold, 100 of them had at least 5 bedrooms or more, and those larger homes sold for an average of $3.2 million. And they averaged around 93% of their original list price when they closed. Now, that tells you something very important. At the upper end of Lincoln Park, the buyers have money, but they're not just paying as some of the other price points. They will pay for the right home, they will pay for the right block, they will definitely pay for the right layout, and they will definitely pay for the right finishes. They will pay for the right lifestyle. But there is a difference between a luxury home that is properly positioned and a luxury home that is just expensive. If a home has the location, the layout, the design, the function, and the outdoor space, and the block, the market will respond. But it feels like someone just priced it high because they could. Lincoln Park will not magically save it. Now, 4-bedroom standalone homes average about $2.1 million. And the smaller 1 to 2 bedroom homes, they average about $1.23 million. Both of those categories average, get this, around 112% of the original list price. That means buyers were not just showing up, they were competing, they were pushing, they were willing to go above the original asking price when the right home hit the market. But the category that really tells the story is the 3-bedroom single family homes when I was looking at the data. There's 23 of these 3-bedroom sales during this period. The average sale price was about $1.553 million. And those homes sold for about 125% of the original list price. Yes, around 125%. That is a number that should stop every buyer and seller because it tells you exactly where the pressure is. The buyer who wants a standalone home at Lincoln Park but does not want to jump all the way to the 2.5, 3 million, or even 4 million has fewer options. So when a 3-bedroom standalone home that hits the market under $2 million, that buyer pool acts fast because they know that this is a product that cannot easily be replicated. You're talking about buyers who want the independence of a standalone home but still want that Lincoln Park lifestyle. They may not need a mansion, they may not need 5 or 6 bedrooms, but they want their own front door. They want the feel of a home. They want the neighborhood, they want the block, and most importantly, they want the city. And when that shows up on the market at the right number, it becomes competitive fast. This is not hype, people, this is scarcity. Good Lincoln Park homes do not sit around waiting for buyers to decide. I think we've established that now. Now, at the time of filming this on June 12, 2026, there were 48 standalone homes active on the market in Lincoln Park. The average list price was $3.54 million. So standalone homes averaged about $2.625 million, but active standalone inventory was averaging about $3.54 million. That gap is starting to matter because it tells us that sellers are still aiming high. Luxury inventory is still expensive, and buyers are still being asked to decide whether they're willing to pay for location, scarcity, space, and lifestyle. That is the real Lincoln Park story. And honestly, it's probably never gonna be cheap. I have a belief when you compare Chicago to New York, it's a no-brainer based off those prices because there are only so many places in Chicago where you can have that combination. Walkable streets, historic homes, and newer luxury construction. The lake's nearby, parks are nearby, downtown's nearby, and restaurants are nearby, great schools and neighborhood amenities are nearby as well. And still feel like you're in an actual residential neighborhood. Now, when someone asks who is buying in Lincoln Park, the answer is not just rich people. That's too simple. The better answer is this: people who want Chicago but want a more complete lifestyle. They want the walk to coffee. They want to be near the lakefront path. They want to be able to go to Lincoln Park Zoo, Oz Park, Halsted, Clark, and still be close enough to downtown for work, meetings, or the social side of the city. They want the energy of Chicago, but they don't want to feel their home life to feel chaotic. That's what makes Lincoln Park powerful. You get city energy on the main corridors, but then a few blocks away, you can be on a quieter residential street with trees, older brick, gray stones, row homes, newer construction, and families walking dogs or pushing strollers. The contrast is the value. This is not easy to duplicate. Now, let's talk about the attached market. So that consists of townhomes and condos, because this is where Lincoln Park becomes even more layered. Detached homes had 185 closed sales. Attached properties had over 1,000 closed sales over the same time period. That includes condos, townhomes, and penthouses. So the attached market had more than 5 times the sales volume, and that makes sense because not everyone buying in Lincoln Park is buying a $3 million standalone home. Some people are buying their first place in the city. Some are buying a 1-bedroom condo because they want the lifestyle. Some are moving from a smaller unit into a 3-bedroom. Some are buying a townhome because they want parking, outdoor space, and more function. The average attached sale price for these properties was around $787,000. But the average alone does not tell you the story because a studio condo and a $2.5 million townhome are not even close to the same buyer. They're not solving the same problem. Studios average around $251,000 and average about 114% of the original list price. Entry-level demand in Lincoln Park is still real, people. People still want to weigh in. A studio buyer in Lincoln Park is usually not buying the most square footage, but again, they're buying access for the neighborhood, to the lake, and public transportation. And in my opinion, to a lifestyle that has long-term value. The buyer may be choosing Lincoln Park over some other spaces somewhere else because they want that daily life that comes with this location. Close to Lakeview, close to Wrigleyville. They want to walk out the door and feel like they're in the middle of Chicago's best neighborhood. That is the value, not the size, the location. The entry-level buyer in Lincoln Park is not buying size, they are buying the access. Now, the 1 and 2 bedroom attached market was the most active in the category. They had 584 sales. The average sale price was about $522,000, and this category averaged 120% of the original list price. That's a major number because the buyer pool is the most active, and it tells you who might this be. This could be the young professional, the young couple, the person relocated into the city, the buyer who wants the Lincoln Park lifestyle without jumping into the $1 million plus range. They want access to red, brown, or purple line depending on what they're looking for. They may not need a big home yet, but they want the lifestyle now and get a feel for it first. This is why the price range moves. It's not just about Gagano and Miele appliances or quartz countertops. No, it's about access to everyday rhythm of Lincoln Park. Coffee in the morning, a walk near the lake, dinner nearby, a neighborhood that feels active but still established. This is what people are buying, and I sound like a broken record, but this is true. So get this, 3 bedrooms in this category average just over $1 million, and there was more than 300 sales in this category, and they averaged about 112% of the original list price. This is a huge signal because the 3-bedroom home in this category is usually in a different life stage. They might be outgrowing the smaller condo. They might need a home office. They may have a child. They want a guest space. And of course, they want parking. We all know how that is in the city. And then they want that rooftop deck. They might want the better layout. They may want to stay in the city, but they still need a home to function more like a home. This is where that 3-bedroom condo town townhouses become so powerful. It is the bridge. It gives buyers more space without forcing them into a higher price point. It still gives you Lincoln Park and it still gives you that walkability. It gives them a way to stay in the neighborhood instead of leaving the city. This is why this market in Lincoln Park is so competitive, because it solves your real life problem. Now, the 4-bedroom townhome and condos, they average about $1.55 million, and there was 111 sales. They sold at about 93% of the original list price, but about 101% of the final list price. That tells us something very useful. Some of these homes likely came out too aggressive trying to get a record price. The market spoke, they were price adjusted, and once the price made sense, the buyers showed up. This is not a weakness, this is pricing strategy, and I want you to take notes, especially if you're a seller. In a market like Lincoln Park, you can still miss the market. Even if you have a great neighborhood, a great property, even with super strong demand, if you start way too high, buyers will pause. They will compare, they will wait, they will ask, what else can they get? And once that happens, momentum matters, and you start losing a lot of momentum on your house. Before I keep going, this is exactly why my team and I believe real estate decisions should be made with strategy, data, and actual neighborhood context. Because the goal is not just to buy or sell, the goal is to make the right move. Whether you're buying, selling, relocating, or investing in Chicago, Southeast Wisconsin, or Northern Illinois, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. Now, let's get to the part of the market most people completely misunderstand. The 5-bedroom properties, these are the larger townhomes, penthouses, and luxury attached properties. This category averaged $2.4 million. They sold about 82% of the original list price, and they had much longer market times, averaging over 400 days. And honestly, that makes sense, because once a condo or a townhome gets into that $2.5 million range, the buyer pool gets smaller and smaller. At that number, buyers are starting to ask harder questions. Do I want a luxury townhome? Or do I want to stretch into that single standalone family home? Do I want the penthouse? Or do I want land? Do I want views, or do I want privacy? Do I want newer attached properties with less maintenance, or do I want the status and control of that standalone home? Do I want Lincoln Park, or does another neighborhood give me more space for the same money? This is why high-end properties have to be marketed with precision. You cannot just say luxury. Everybody says luxury. You have to show why the property makes sense. You have to show the lifestyle, the convenience, the block. You have to show the views if it has them. You have to show why this attached property solves the buyer's problem, because the standalone property may be considering if the price point's in that $2.5 million. That is the difference. At the top of the market, luxury is not enough. You have to prove the value. So the question should not be, what does Lincoln Park cost? No, that is too broad. The better question is, which Lincoln Park market am I actually in? Because the studio buyer near Clark, the 2-bedroom condo buyer near the lake, the 3-bedroom townhome buyer near Sheffield, the move-up buyer near Armitage, the detached single-family buyer near Oz Park are not making the same decision, because they all want Lincoln Park, but they do not want the same Lincoln Park. That is the key. This is where buyer strategy matters. Now, sellers, this is where the average agent gets exposed, because you cannot market every Lincoln Park property the same way. A condo is not the same as a townhome near Sheffield. A 3-bedroom home near Armitage is not the same story as a detached standalone home near Oz Park. A lakefront adjacent condo is not the same as a quiet residential home near Orchard or Berlin. A property near DePaul may attract a different buyer than a family-focused approach that's looking for more calmer residential blocks. So the marketing has to match the buyer psychology. For a condo buyer, you may be selling access to the neighborhood, access to the transit, and access to the lakefront. Access to this lifestyle, a price point that feels reachable for people. Now, for 1 to 2-bedroom buyers, you may be selling the everyday rhythm. Walks to coffee, walks to dinner, walk to the lake, walk to the gym. Get downtown without making your life complicated. For a 3-bedroom townhome buyer, you're selling function, more space, and that better layout, that home office, that guest room. A way to stay in the city without feeling like the home no longer fits your lifestyle. So again, the ability to stay in Chicago without giving up the feeling of a true home here in Lincoln Park gives you plenty of options. The condo buyer is buying access. The townhome buyer is buying function and access. The standalone home buyer is buying scarcity and a different lifestyle. There are differences, people, between listing a property and positioning a property. Listing says 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, rooftop deck. Positioning says this is the version of Lincoln Park that buyers are trying to find. And here's why the home solves that problem better than any other option. Because this is where marketing has to be better. Because in Lincoln Park, you cannot just show the kitchen kitchen and the bathroom and think you're done. You have to show the block, you have to show the walkability, and you have to show the lifestyle for people, because not everybody's gonna understand Lincoln Park. They might say, I want Lincoln Park, but they need to understand Lincoln Park. So here is my honest take. Lincoln Park is worth the price for the right buyer, but only if you understand what you're actually looking for. And long-term, Lincoln Park is still one of the safest bets in Chicago's real estate market because the location is impossible to duplicate. You can renovate a kitchen, you can update the bathroom, you can change flooring, you can improve lighting, and you can redesign the entire floor plan. You can make the home feel new again, but you cannot recreate the mix of lakefront, parks, restaurants, schools, walkability, historic streets, and brand recognition. This is why Lincoln Park keeps winning and will always win. Not because it's cheap, because it's scarce. So when someone says Lincoln Park is expensive, the better question is, which Lincoln Park? The Clark and Diversity condo buyer, the Armitage 3-bedroom attached buyer, the Sheffield townhome buyer, the Oz Park standalone buyer, the Lakefront lifestyle buyer, or the DePaul University investor, or maybe the Old Triangle character buyer. These are not the same buyers. They're not the same energy, and they're not the same risk. They're not the same game. Same neighborhood, different strategy, different game. This is why you need to understand the market before you make a move. Because in a neighborhood like Lincoln Park, the wrong strategy can cost you. As a buyer, it can cost you the right property. As a seller, it can cost you the right momentum, time, and money. And for agent, it exposes whether you actually understand what you're selling. So if you're thinking about buying, selling, relocating, or investing anywhere in Chicago, Southeast Wisconsin, or Northern Illinois, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. I'm Tony Bitar, your real estate professional in Wisconsin and Illinois, and I'll see you on the next one. Olipop's really good.